Item 1, Historic Preservation Overview. Mr. Greene and Ms. Mittner, I think Commissioner Fox sent us a statement she wanted read into the record to tee this up, right? Do you have that in front of you?
I do, Mayor.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Ms. Johnson. You want to read that? And I guess that'll set the tone.
Yes. At Commissioner Fox's request, as the mayor indicated, she wanted this read into the record. Thank you so much for hosting this workshop. The unique and historic neighborhoods of West Palm Beach add so much character and charm, and I am proud that our city puts such a high value on preserving its history. However, I also believe there may be times when flexibility may be our most important tool in preserving our structures from environmental and weather issues and concerns. In addition, as was recently presented to us by a homeowner who was having a financial hardship and looking to replace the roof of a small structure in back of her home, there may be times when the state and city codes vary on possible solutions. I am hoping this workshop might help clarify how the city and state codes vary on historic issues, such as environmental factors, and if there are options to include flexibility in interpreting our current codes for extreme scenarios or updating them to reflect more modern problems. Christy Fox, West Palm Beach City Commissioner, District 3.
Okay. Mr. Greene.
Thank you. For the record, Rick Greene, Development Services Director. I just wanted to do a quick introduction. Friederike Mittner will do the presentation today. She is the city's historic preservation planner. She's been with the city for 16 years. She has served in the past as the president of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. And very importantly, what I am impressed with is that she has worked with 20 other cities getting their historic preservation program set up. We do feel that our program does have a lot of flexibility. Certainly we can discuss that and some of the things that we are doing. But let me have Friederike come in and she'll go through her presentation.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I have a general presentation, if that's all right, and then I'll try to address Commissioner Fox's specific requests, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Thank you. We are very excited that in the city of West Palm Beach, we have 17 locally designated historic districts, which captures about 5,000 resources. We have 47 individually designated sites. Individually designated sites are just the ones that don't have context around them. You see a lot of those in downtown. We also have 9 National Register historic districts and 18 individually nationally registered designated sites. The National Register is a wonderful honor. However, all the benefits and protections really lie at the local level unless you're dealing with Section 106 and transportation issues. We also have 4 landmark sites, which is really unique that we have adopted that at the local level, that we have that elevated tier that mirrors the national program, and that does allow additional TDRs in the downtown, as you know. To become a designated site or part of a district, the properties have to be 50 years old and meet additional criteria in our code. And how this program was really driven is neighborhood-driven and citizen-driven. The communities wanted to revitalize and preserve the character of their neighborhoods, so we, the City Commission, thanks to you all, have adopted a specific element in our comprehensive plan, element 10, for historic preservation. That is not a mandatory element, but one that the city has chosen to have. We also have codified our preservation program in our zoning and land development regulations, section 9446 through 9453. And I think what's neat about it is that it really encompasses the intention well, and also the bigger picture. So identifying, protecting, restoring, encouraging reuse of resources, because it is actually an economic, educational, cultural, and general welfare benefit. We also have additional contextual zoning regulations. We're one of the only communities that have quantified building size, scale, and mass, which is Secretary of Interior Standard number 9 in our code. So our zoning mirrors the historic preservation, what would have been an overlay in any other community. So it's very clear and predictable. Oftentimes, when we present to you, you'll hear about the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. That's because most programs are based on the National Preservation Program. At the federal level, it's the Department of Interior that covers historic preservation, just like they do national parks. And the three that we use most often are 6, 9, and 10. 6 speaks to deteriorated features, that they should be repaired rather than replaced. The beauty of that is the sustainability aspect. Again, repair over throwing out and putting in new. If you do put in new, it should match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, materials. So that's definitely one of those flexible items where if it's not available anymore, asbestos siding is one example, we can use different materials. Standard 9 is, again, new construction and additions, that the new will be differentiated from the old, yet at the same time compatible with materials, features, size, scale, and proportion, and massing. And 10, this is the do not leave only footprints, do no harm, that if we make a mistake in the future, our decisions can be reversed. And there's actually 3 guiding documents from the National Park Service, the Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. Those are the 3 main ones. They've also identified guidelines for sustainability and also flood adaptation, which certainly is an issue here. So we are very flexible in addressing environmental issues as applications come in front of us. We also have in our code additional criteria and our Historic Preservation Design Guidelines Handbook, which is a visual guide for homeowners and how to address modifications. The process, how it works is properties are flagged in our building permit system as historic, so when an owner comes in to apply for a change to their property, we review it. And so this is critical to know that we don't knock on someone's door and say, hey, you have the wrong windows, you have the wrong roofing material, change that. We are not the architectural police. We wait until someone's requesting a change, and we just make sure it follows our zoning code, which has these design guidelines embedded in it. So then again, we review it with consistency with the historic preservation section. 93% of our applications are done at the permit level. Most people don't even know we're looking at it for a historic review. Typically, it's a day of review, and we do over 1,000 of those a year. It has been a little longer because we are short-staffed right now, and as you know, the volume of work is crazy. The staff level COA just stands for Certificate of Appropriateness, because again, what we're doing is making sure the changes are appropriate to the architectural style. That takes about a week to process, and our board level COA, which is about 6% of our applications, that goes to our historic board. There's 9 members. We meet 4th Tuesday of the month at 5 o'clock in the chambers, and the request is to submit 5 weeks prior to the meeting. So that's one of the shortest turnarounds we have for all of our boards there. That's process-wise. Outreach, we also make sure that new property owners know that they've purchased in a historic district. It actually comes up in the title search, but I know that's a lot to read at a closing. So we do a mailer to all the new property owners, let them know they're in a district. We attend neighborhood association meetings explaining historic preservation. We do updates via our communication department. We have a plaque program, which is what you see pictured here. People can purchase that for their homes. Street signs, state historic district. We do an annual award program, and then we have miscellaneous educational opportunities such as bike rides, home tours, et cetera, to let people know about the preservation program. And a lot of people seek out the historic districts to purchase in there specifically. Benefits of historic preservation, this is all around the country. I won't go through all of them. Basically mirrors excellent planning policy. Housing affordability, also actually historic properties as a whole are identified as having excellent housing affordability. One of the studies that was recently done that's geographically the closest to us is Miami-Dade County. I have the executive summary at your seats there, which shows that from an affordability, historic preservation districts at large are very affordable. Obviously, preservation is a catalyst for the creative arts. It is home to social and cultural institutions, has shown to have neighborhood stability, lower vacancy rates, and then also the foreclosure rates during the last recession were much lower in historic districts. They're much more stable. So we have really a wide variety of, we don't just have residential buildings, but we have commercial buildings downtown, and I'm sure you saw recently the record-breaking sale of the Como and Harvey building that are historic. So certainly no negative impact on property values. We also offer an ad valorem tax abatement program. The increase in value of the improvement on site is abated at the city and county portion of the taxes for 10 years. It is transferable if the owner sells. You're very familiar, of course, with our TDR program, transfer development rights. We also offer floodplain exemptions. This is coming into play more and more. If someone wants to improve their property by 50% or more, then they have to lift the house to meet FEMA floodplain regulations, as well as the city's 2-foot freeboard requirement. We are able to exempt historic properties, and that has come in quite handy. And the CRA also has a specific grant for historic properties in the Northwest. Enhancing Paradise, again, this kind of recaps the benefits, and the summary sheet is in front of you. Also, Jacksonville, you see that, again, smaller scale incremental development, culture of reuse, a sustainability approach, and again, economics. So there's many, if you don't just love the history or the architecture, there's the economics and the environmental impact. Sales, these are just really quick sampling of properties in historic districts that have sold. Also a study that we've done internally where we've compared historic districts to non-designated historic districts. The increase in appreciation and value of historic districts is much greater than those for new development because it's like a piece of art. It is unique and cannot be as easily replicated. And Park Slope is actually another new construction project in one of our historic districts. So we love the balance of new construction that's compatible in our historic districts. What I think is important to note is that the Historic Preservation Division nor the board, we do not review paint color. You can paint your property any color you want. We do not review interior modifications. And this is an example. This is a house in El Cid. This is the modern kitchen. It's beautiful. We don't review that. However, I'd like to also note that we do not prevent the demolition of undesignated buildings. So you can demo a non-contributing structure in a district, and then there's many buildings in the city you might be surprised are not protected. So sometimes citizens call us or are concerned. For example, Trinity Church in downtown, the Himmel Theater in City Place, not designated. So we don't have protections for those. We just work on the ones that were designated. So that is my overview. To address Commissioner Fox's point specifically, is there is really no state code. It is just local, mirrored on the federal program. And I do believe we're quite flexible. I understand the barrel tile concern. However, that was the appropriate material. It was a very small roof. I think there was a very small financial impact. I think that was still an appropriate decision. From like to like, we were not asking them to upgrade. It was just asking them to maintain what was there as they replaced it. And we are very flexible with our actually window policy compared to many other preservation programs. We allow the replacement of side and rear elevations with new impact windows and the front if they've already been replaced. The only time we're looking for a repair or to follow Standard 6 is if there are still original windows, wood windows, which can be restored. And then there's other impact protection available like armor screen or removable panels, or depending on the architectural style, colonial shutters. So I feel very confident that our program is flexible and is quite successful. I thank you for your support, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Schoaf?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment. Thank you very much for the presentation this morning. And, you know, I know I'm one of the only commissioners up here that live in a historic district. And not only have I personally been through this process, I've had several neighbors go through the process. And, you know, I know by the time something escalates to this body, you know, you have neighbors that have varying issues. And I can appreciate that it's not always an easy decision. But I just want to point out the values that we have in our historic neighborhoods, so much so that I know recently Northwood Shores has approached the city to self-designate and become a historically designated neighborhood. One of the things that I think sometimes we forget also that's a benefit in historic neighborhoods is the flexibility of our housing. So we have, even on my street alone, I know several larger homes that long ago were divided into individual apartments. I have varying types of housing that are split plans. They were designed that way, all nestled along single-family residential neighborhoods, working in harmony together. So it does provide additional flexibility, and I think some of that really distinctive neighborhood feel that West Palm Beach has. So it definitely contributes, and so I'm appreciative. I know typically the conversation is around windows. And so you touched on it a little bit, Friederike, but if you could talk a little bit about the window replacements as it pertains to having impact windows. So I know from experience there's a number of neighbors in my neighborhood that have been able to replace their windows, understanding every instance is unique. Could you talk about the process for that? Because I know there's a staff level approval process, and sometimes it does escalate to a larger process.
Yes, happy to. So when a homeowner chooses to replace their windows, sometimes they reach out to us right away, otherwise they go into the building permit process. But basically, if you've already have your windows replaced, they're not the true, original, authentic windows, then you can replace them with impact throughout the building. They just need to be architecturally appropriate. So let's say they were a single hung where it goes up and down from the bottom, then you replace it with a single hung window with matching the light pattern that was there before. That's the grids. So that's just basic building permit if you've already had replacement windows. If you've never replaced your windows, or a previous owner has not replaced windows on that structure, then we are looking to see if the front windows can be restored. There are, again, companies that restore them. That's mainly if it's a wood window. If we have steel casements, those are much more difficult, and we do allow replacements for those. So restoring just the front facing, just the street facing elevation, and adding other hurricane protection means there, whether that's armor screen or removable panels or colonial shutters or whatever may be appropriate for that building. And then we do allow replacement on the sides and rear. So that gives the homeowner the flexibility of just having to deal with one facade during a storm, as they're prepping for a storm event.
Thank you. And Mayor, if I may just follow up too.
Yes.
I wanted also to touch on the previous situation that Commissioner Fox had referenced, because to my memory, it wasn't actually a financial issue, because there is a program that allows an applicant to apply for financial aid, if you will. So could you talk about that, and what is our process for looking, because I know historic preservation can be quite costly at times, and so how do we look to say, I know the city owned a property actually that we did a historic renovation on, that ended up being, the renovation costs were higher than what the market would drive. So if that were a residential homeowner, can you talk to some of the financials that go into it and what considerations we take?
Yes, sure. So on that, we do not have a financial aid program. So I do want to put that out there. We do not have funding available unless you go through a normal housing and community development loans or any other mechanism. But for historic preservation, there is not a specific one unless you're in the CRA district. But we do have an economic hardship provision. So if it is a hardship for you, then we are able to grant you a different material. And that has happened multiple times, actually. Even in El Cid, an elderly woman couldn't replace her flat concrete tile with concrete tile. She got approval for shingles at the board level. We've had that in other neighborhoods as well, where an economic hardship was found. This particular applicant chose not to embark on the economic hardship route because it does require you to reveal your financial information. So we do take that into consideration when it's a hardship, but we don't have aid available.
Thank you very much.
And if I recall, they didn't pursue
They did not.
the hardship program. They objected to the length of the application or
Yes.
something like that. So,
Correct.
okay. Commissioner Warren.
Hi, thank you. Is it possible for you to send this presentation to us?
Yes,
Thank
I'd
you.
be happy to, of course.
And can you go back to slides 8 and 9?
I'm sorry, did you say 8?
I did.
Okay, this is 8.
Because I was just looking for the benefits, because we went over those pretty quickly.
I know, I did. I just didn't want to bore you too much, and I know there was a specific ask of Commissioner Fox, so.
Thank you. I'm never bored with the information. When it comes to the historic designation and the benefits that have been identified, there a difference in the historic designations when it comes to like the Northwest neighborhood? When we look at a resale value of a property in the North End that may show tremendous benefit to be designated historic, do we find that that is a challenge? And
So speaking specifically to the Northwest neighborhood, the program and policies are the same throughout. I haven't done a study on what the resale value is in the Northwest. I have seen some just on my own, and certainly the prices have been going up there as well. I don't know if it's consistent in the same percentage other districts. I would probably say not, but it has been going up. And I do have to say, I get a lot of calls. I get the group, RLAC, calls me all the time, frustrated when there's demolitions, and I think there's a big group that cares about preserving those buildings in the Northwest neighborhood. So because the Northwest neighborhood has lost so many buildings and there's a lot of vacant parcels, there's really not that many left to preserve, and so I think it'll actually in the end result in a beautiful balance of new construction and historic properties. And one of the things that a property owner in the Northwest can take advantage of, just like anywhere else, is our ad valorem tax incentive program, where the increase in value due to the work they do to their home, including additions, new construction like a garage, that increase is abated for a period of 10 years at the city and county. So that's would be a good benefit for a property owner in that district. So I can't speak specifically to the increase in value there. We certainly are seeing a lot of new construction. We take at least 1 or 2 a month to the board for new construction in the district. And I do believe, because we have a design review in place, I believe the product is coming out better than if we did not have that available.
You have a follow-up, Commissioner?
not at this time.
Okay. Friederike, I love the information that we got from Miami-Dade County. Do we have anything analogous for our city?
We don't. I'd love to have us engage in a study focused on West Palm Beach.
Well, how much would that cost?
I would have to get some numbers on that, but I'd be happy to get that back to you.
I mean, because I think that would be very helpful to our residents or those looking to move into our city to understand whether these benefits carry over to our historic districts.
Yes, thank you.
Take a look at that, and let's
Thank you.
talk later as to what something like that would cost.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schultz.
Thank you. And I just wanted to touch on something when you were speaking with Commissioner Warren about the ad valorem tax exemption program. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because I don't think that I'm exactly clear on, I know it from a renovation side, but looking at some of the potential benefits from a new build, can you talk about the benefits of that program financially, what it would mean for homeowners and how that can help to build that homeownership?
Sure. So it is not for total new construction. It would be if it's an accessory structure built, like a garage or an addition. I'm going to use just random round numbers because it's all in the eyes of the property appraiser's office. So if the property appraiser thinks your overall value is $300,000 and the land is worth $200,000 and your improvement or your structures on site are $100,000, but you do an addition or you build a detached accessory structure. Let's say you spend another $100,000 building that, but in their eyes, that only increased your value, your improvement value, or what you're going to be taxed at, another $50,000. So now you would normally pay taxes on $150,000 worth of improvement value. Land value has stayed the same. That increase in $50,000, we abate that for 10 years at the city and county portion of the tax bill. Your other taxing authorities, school board, water management, those all go up. And so it really depends on the size of the square footage you've added, the value you've added, and how they've reassessed it. So we have property owners that are saving several $1,000s a year to several $100s a year. But again, it is a nice benefit over 10 years. You can save a good amount of money because anywhere outside the historic districts, you would have been paying that anyway. So it's very comparable to the TIF program where the increase in value is what you're getting rebated, but it's through the historic preservation program.
And does that transfer with the sale of the property?
It does, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much.